All right, everybody. Today we have with us Miss Heidi Mitro, one of our BodyMind ambassadors. And we're just going to talk a little bit. I'm curious, Heidi, what does BodyMind Living mean for you?
It's really interesting to look back on the evolution of how body mind has showed up because I feel like it's been the way that I've lived even since I was a little kid. And now it's having like language for it and it's having this inner knowing, but now it's got like an expression point and there's also community around it. And that is so different, especially as an adult. Having community is different because we're not in school, we're not in college, you don't have those spaces where you're gathering unless it's your typical job. And as an entrepreneur, as someone who is creating a company and creating a business, finding community can be more challenging. And so having a body mind living lifestyle that you get to share with other people it's really special. It's very unique.
Well, and I think it's so different. You're right. Like we get to this point in our lives where it's like there's work people and like you have these certain groups, but where do you actually have a group and a community where there's commitment to living in that best version of yourself and expressing who you are truly as you are? It's almost like just a space to let go of the layers and really shine through as who you are. Yeah. And how, cause I know you've been in your personal growth journey for such a long time, like you said, from the moment you were born.
I swear.
So compared to other, personal growth things, how is body mind different? How is it similar? How has it shifted you maybe in that journey?
I think it feels very integrated. And so even in the course of writing, I'm recognizing like different seasons of my life and where I collected different lessons and different ideologies and philosophies. And living body mind living is really the synthesis of all of that. It's super fascinating to even like go back through my journals or go back through time and go, oh, I've kind of been collecting these pieces for a while. And having it coalesce also with my business, man, I think we're taught to compartmentalize so much. And I mean, it's like with body, mind, living, it is the synthesis of it.
Well, and that kind of brings me to your business, because let's face it, you and I are very much the same. Of us living this expression of body mind is very much our work. It's very much our personal life. Like we are just who we are, and you and I think have consciously chosen to build businesses and companies around that. But you work with primarily women in leadership roles.
Yes.
So how does this shift that process for them? Because I do think that's probably the challenge for people who are in those leadership roles. It's like, I'm a leader over here, and I'm this over here, and I'm this over here. So yeah, how does that impact your work and how you're working with these women?
I think the biggest takeaway that my women get when it's usually after like the second meeting and they're like, oh, this is different. Like they come to me because they think they want business leadership, or they often say, I want what you have. And really what they're recognizing is alignment. And I love to tell them, about mirror neurons, like what you see in me, is hatching in you. You get this too. And honestly, they usually take a deep breath. They're like, oh, I don't have to be different in all of these roles. I can, especially women in the corporate world or women who are like professionals owning their own business, they have been taught the antithesis of body mind. They've been taught to hustle and grind and like this super masculine, not male version, but this masculine version of leadership that they have a visceral rejection to. And so oftentimes it really is the permission. Like the course that I teach is called Lead from Within. And most of them are just so relieved. Like, oh, thank God I don't have to do it that way.
Yeah. Well, I just think of, as you're talking, like that old way of leadership being so like literally heavy in the body.
And on the chest.
And how they're coming in with like all this tightness and this like heaviness and I just feel this sense of caring and the striving and the struggle and the hustle and the grind, and to literally come in and just say, I can set this down and I can come back to myself. Like, I
so
think
fun
that, you know, because you work with leaders, I think this is true for all of us, but that who you are as you are when you start to live body mind is really peeling back the layers of who you thought you're supposed to be.
Yes.
And letting your brilliance shine. And like, is that not like a true leader is somebody who is able to really show up as themselves
and trust it? I think that is probably the hardest part, or where women get tripped up the most, is like, if I am just myself, like the overarching thing that shows up is that enough? It still shows up for me, where you're just like, oh God, like, should I be more? Should it be bigger? Should it be all of the things out here? And it's like, oh, okay, when we come back home and you lead from within, enough becomes plenty. Like, I don't even like to tell women they're enough. I think even the physiology of that, I reject. I'm like, oh, enough always will mean never
minimal.
enough.
It's like,
totally. But plenty is like, spacious, and who you are is plenty. There's plenty to go around. Yeah, it's a coming home.
You're starting to speak into something that I've often felt in leadership and in living this work is, like, the hard work is like peeling back the layers and living from within. Like, that's the real work. And then somehow, like, I'm trying to find the words to this, like the old outdated like definition of leadership and that toxic masculine go hustle is like, it has to be harder and it has to be more and it has to be bigger and it has to all this stuff. And like, the irony of this is, as you're living body mind in this leadership role and like doing the work, peeling the layers, like the more aligned, the more authentic, the more centered you are in yourself. In a strange way, like the growth, the expansion, the impact become effortless. That's been my experience.
I think for me, I get moments of that. That is like the new next level, the new goal of like living that more. And what I will tell women is like, you sometimes will feel on this journey that you are in the middle of a labyrinth that is dark and you're not sure where you're going, and, you know, using body mind language of feel your way forward. But I will say to them, just remember that you are coming home to you. Like, even when it is the scariest, even when you are so unsure, the very best person is going to greet you when you get there. And it's you. And there is this like recognition of, oh, my best friend is waiting for me. I just have to feel my way forward. And oftentimes for me, I have to relax my way back. Sometimes feeling my way forward is, I know, right? Like, sometimes that forward is like, oh, I'm missing something. And it's like, no, if you sit back, like, sometimes your best friend is behind you. It's like that whole, you know, airplane thing, like the exit. Sometimes the nearest exit is behind you, but I will go like 26 miles in the wrong direction to prove I worked hard. And it was like, oh shit, she's right here. Like, but oftentimes women will say like, I'm afraid. Like, of course you are. That's a totally appropriate physiological response. And your best friend is going to greet you. And for me, that calms my own nervous system of like, oh, that highest and best self is the one who's waiting. And she's got nothing else to do. She's got nothing but time. Where is God not is a phrase that has been very soothing for me. I know, I know, right? It's like, well, I mean, it's always here. He's always here. She's always here. The highest version of me is always available. She's not doing anything else but waiting for me.
That's amazing. And just to close, is there any word of wisdom, although I feel like we've gotten like so many Heidi does this thing where she drops wisdom bombs in like every single sentence that she speaks.
Oh, thank you.
Are there any words of wisdom for somebody who might be struggling in this journey, or just being like, what would you say to them?
Yeah. Especially if you're at the beginning of this, like, I think of it as an integration where you wouldn't be here unless you knew this to already be true. And it really is now a matter of going within and listening to that still silent place, because that is the guidance. And I had a gal that I was coaching actually last week, and she's like, I'm so tired of all the gurus. I'm so tired of like being told what to do and like all my morning routine and my night, she said, I'm tired of all of the gurus. And so the phrase that we've been using inside my program right now is be your own guru. And it's like when you come home and you are your own guru, the steps forward become more apparent and more obvious. And that to me is living body mind aligned. Like, keep going. And if you feel like you're going too fast, slow down. Yeah. You need one or the other.
Yeah. What do we say? Slow is smooth and smooth is fast.
Yes.
People hate it when I say that, but
oh God, I hated when you used to say that. I mean, and I say it to people, and I'm like, I hated when my coach said this, and you're welcome, because it's true.
It's very much like, it's, again, just that coming home and feeling into things and reconnecting how we are taught from a very young age to fear our emotions, control our emotions,
Yep.
and we create this disconnection.
Yes.
So this alignment that she's speaking of is really, it's just a deepening. It's going through these layers. It's like a reclamation.
Yes. And it's also living vertical. There's a gal I follow. Her name is Tosha Silver. And whenever she does a meditation, she talks about live in the vertical. And it helps me to come home to be present in this moment, because I tend to be like way out in front, or like let me go dig in the past and make sure I still feel bad about this, or like off to one side or the other. And living vertical allows me to be in this body, in this time and space. And it's like, there's an alignment, but there's spaciousness. It's like I can get a 360 view.
Yeah.
And I resisted that for a while. Like, oh, does alignment mean rigid? And it's like, no, alignment is spacious.
Yeah. To me, alignment is it's not static. It's always moving, right? For people, like, I think we want to find alignment and think that alignment is, here's my schedule, here's it's going to be all perfect. And it's like, it's in flux. I think you're right. It is that ability to be vertical in the moment.
Yeah.
So I see a very, like, just to come home.
Yes. And this is super somatic. Like, this is my somatic work of coming home to this, like, this true magic special moment. My son Theo wants a watch that says now, so that he remembers to stay. I know. And they make them. Isn't that adorable?
That's amazing.
But yeah, now. And really now is that point of power. And living body mind allows you to have access to that more than you have in the past. And that is the work. That's the play.
It is amazing.
Cool.
Well, thanks.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, so fun.
This is BodyMind Living with Laura Wieck. Thanks for watching.